Once upon a time, somebody had asked me, Brian, how many books do you read a month and how do you keep up that pace? And the answer is simple. I always have one book I'm reading and I always have one book I'm listening to via audiobook. Today, we're going to talk about 10 of my favorite narrators that I have found throughout my audiobook journeys. Let's get into it. Welcome back to BellTube, everyone. I'm Brian Bell. Today, we are talking audiobooks, and specifically audio narrators. Now, these are acting professionals that I believe truly elevate the storytelling experience to the next level that make these kinds of books even better than on the written page. I am very intentional about the books that I choose to sight read versus the books that I choose to listen to for a couple of different reasons that we'll get into as this list goes on. But I do want to suggest, if you have some favorite audio narrators that aren't on my list, please do leave them in the comments because I'm always looking for my next great listen. Before we get into this top 10 list that I've cultivated today, I want to mention one person who's not on the list, and that's Stephen Pacey. I know a ton of you love Stephen Pacey's narration. My problem is I can't authentically do it because I have read all of The First Law by sight reading. I have not listened to it on audiobook. I haven't listened to any Stephen Pacey, so he can't legitimately make my list, but I am aware he exists. Don't worry. Let's get into number 10. And number 10 is a favorite of a lot of you guys, I know. He's the guy that narrates the Red Rising series. He does the Saga of the Forgotten Warrior. Of course, I'm talking about Tim Gerard Reynolds. He is my number 10 favorite audiobook narrator. I've only listened to a handful of Tim Gerard Reynolds' work, but from what I've heard, he's fantastic. I listened to a couple of his Red Rising books, and I also listened to book 3 of the Saga of the Forgotten Warrior by Larry Correia because book 4 is coming out and I wanted to kind of get a catch up even though I had sight read it. But Tim Gerard Reynolds, I know a lot of you love a lot. He's going to come in at number 10 on our audio narrator list. Coming in at number 9, another fan favorite is Travis Baldree. Now, not only is he the author of Legends and Lattes, he also narrates that audiobook himself, but he's probably most famous for his narration of the Cradle series. Now, if you're any fan of the channel at all, you know I've recently done the entire 12 books on Audible listening to Cradle. And for me, even though I didn't love the series, the saving grace, the one redeeming factor was the narrator, Travis Baldree. He's got a wide range of voices. He elevated the material for me to a level that it was at least passable. I'm sorry, Cradle fans. I know you guys are throwing rocks at your screen right now. Anyway, Travis Baldree, number 9, let's move on. Coming in at number 8, one of my favorite authors of all time. The only reason he's as low on the list as he is just simply because he doesn't do it very much, and I am talking about Neil Gaiman. Now, Neil Gaiman self-narrates a lot of his works, like Norse mythology, like The Ocean at the End of the Lane, like The Graveyard Book. And there's something about Neil Gaiman's voice that is undeniably Neil Gaiman. Now, I don't know that that makes any sense, but if you're a fan of his, maybe it does to you. I love this guy's work so much. When I listen to him read it, it's like your favorite person in the world telling you a story. Coming in at number 8, the great Neil Gaiman. Coming in at number 7 is a narrator that I'm not sure a lot of you are familiar with, so I wanted to bring some attention to him today, and that is Heath Miller. He narrates all of the He Who Fights with Monsters books. Now, that is Lit RPG. You guys, if you're a fan of the channel, you know I love my Lit RPG. He's done all of the He Who Fights with Monsters books. I'm sure he's done other books as well. But the reason why he's on my list today is because he brings a sense of fun and joy that you can hear through his voice, along with a wider range of voices that he does. That cast is pretty big. I have some issues with the author maybe not getting so deep into the characters that I would like him to do, but that really doesn't change the fact that Heath Miller has developed individual voices across the board for the He Who Fights with Monsters series. A really great pick. That's why he's coming in at number 7 for me today. Before we get into the rest of the list, I do want to remind you, If you like these types of videos and you'd like to help other people find our channel, please do hit that like button. That's the one that looks like a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already. Although I will say, according to the internal metrics that I get to see, a lot of you who watch my videos are subscribed to the channel, and that's incredible. If you're not and you'd like to join our party, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the post notification bell so you never miss a video when I drop them. Also, just to let you know, down in the description is a link to the new Patreon. It's not required by any stretch of the imagination, but it's there if you want to support the channel in an extra kind of way. Let's get back to the list. Okay, coming in at number 6 is a narrator that I've only listened to one book series of, but wow. Number 6, the great Jim Dale, narrator of the Harry Potter series. I'm not so sure that anybody could have brought to life that series better than Jim Dale. The voices are so characteristic of the image that I had in my mind when I read those books. Even forgetting the actors that are in the movies, Jim Dale absolutely gives me the sense of every single character through the richness and the depth of his voice, to the lightness and the playfulness of the story that he brings out, to the most dark and serious moments of the Harry Potter story. And you know those are there as well. Jim Dale captures it all. I've listened to this series on road trips before. He's so entertaining. He's so engaging. Talk about an author that brings the story that you might already know to further life. Jim Dale, number 6, specifically for the Harry Potter series. Coming in at number 5 is an actor who has stepped into the voice booth to put on one of the greatest performances I've ever seen him do. Of course, I am talking about the one and only James Marsters as Jim Butcher's Harry Dresden. The Dresden Files on audiobook is fantastic. I love it a ton. Now, I've read all the books. I've also listened to all the audiobooks specifically because of James Marsters. I think he makes the series even better than the written word. It's not required, but wow, he absolutely gave me a compelling side to the Harry Dresden character that brought out a different dimension than I was getting from the written word. I still loved the actual books, and I own them all on ebook, but wow, I have to say, as the series moves forward, I actually prefer to listen to these now on audiobooks, specifically and entirely due to the great James Marsters. He is our number 5 today. Coming in at number 4, we have a voice actor who is absolutely incredible. He's done a ton of lit RPG. He's done a lot of fantasy as well, and I am talking about Luke Daniels. He has such a wide variety of accents, of characters. He does animal companions probably better than anybody I know. I first probably found Luke Daniels while listening to the Iron Druid series by Kevin Hearn. He's since gone on to narrate other series by Kevin Hearn, namely Ink and Sigil and also The Seven Kennings. He also narrated the Game of Life series by Terry Schott, which is lit RPG. He's done lots of fantasy. He's done lots of lit RPG. He's done the Divine Dungeon and the Completionist Chronicles by Dakota Kraut, who is a lit RPG author. I have to tell you, Luke Daniels is fantastic. I follow him on his socials. He just seems like a down-to-earth kind of guy, and his voice acting is fantastic. I suggest you go on to wherever you get your audiobooks, take a look for Luke Daniels, see if you can find a book that seems interesting to you, and give Luke Daniels a shot. He's number 4. Coming in at number 3 is one of my favorite voice actors that does any narration. He does all of the Eric Ugeland's books for the good guys and the bad guys and now the grim guys. I am talking about Neil Helligers. Many of you may be unfamiliar with his work if you're not a fan of lit RPG, or maybe you haven't gotten into lit RPG yet. Stick around with me long enough. I will make a believer out of you. But Neil Helligers is absolutely one of my favorites. He lands easily in the top 3. He's the kind of voice actor that always seems like he's having a blast with whatever material he's given. Yes, he has all the voice acting skills. Yes, he can do all the voices that you want in a narrator. But there's just something unique about the guy that, I don't know, I feel like I want to go have a beer with him. He just sounds great. He brings life to these stories. Coming in at number 3 for me, Look him up. I promise you. Pick a book that he does and you won't be disappointed. Neil Helligers. Okay, we're at number 2, and it does take quite a bit to make it all the way to the runner-up position on my list today, but undeniably, Nick Podell is my number 2. The man does everything. He does fantasy, he does science fiction, he does lit RPG. He has all the voices you could possibly want. He does the Kingkiller Chronicles. He does the Arcane Ascension by Andrew Rowe. Also does Weapons and Wielders by Andrew Rowe. He has such a catalog. If you go into Audible, for example, and that's where I get most of my audiobooks, I'll use that platform for the example here. But Nick Podell has read so many books, he's hard to escape in the best way possible. He brings a certain sense of joy to the reading experience. He has all the talent to do all the voices. He doesn't tend to repeat a lot of voices between series, so there are clear distinctions, so you don't always go, oh, this is just a Nick Podell book. No, you go, awesome, this is a Nick Podell book. Coming in at number 2, I love the guy a ton, Nick Podell. All right, we've reached the grand champion, the number 1. And if you know anything about this channel, this was going to be an easy one. You probably predicted it when you clicked on the title, but if you haven't, I will share with you that my favorite audiobook narrator is Jeff Hayes and his Sound Booth Theater Company. He often employs Annie Ellicott to do some of the female voices as well, although don't kid yourself, Jeff Hayes does plenty of the female voices himself. Now this is the guy that of course does all of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, but Sound Booth Theater does a ton more than that. He's done the Life Reset series, which I've talked about in Lit RPG videos. He's done the War Eternus series, which I've also talked about in similar videos. The man is the consummate professional. His production company, I say, elevates the written word to absolutely the next level. For me, I cannot imagine enjoying Dungeon Crawler Carl as an experience reading it with my eyes versus listening to it on an audiobook. The man puts everything together in such a professional package. It is everything that you would want in an audiobook narrator and more. He's constantly challenging himself. He engages with the community like nobody else. I've never seen any other audio narrator engage with his fan base the way that Jeff Hayes does with his Sound Booth Theater Company. If you haven't checked out anything yet, if you've been waiting on Dungeon Crawler Carl, if you've been saying, you know what, maybe Brian, that's not my type of genre, Jeff Hayes' Sound Booth Theater absolutely exceeds expectations, and that's going to lead us into today's one for the road, and that's leaving others with an elevated perception of their experience with you. Now, what do I mean by that? Basically, when I listen to Sound Booth Theater, when I listen to Jeff Hayes, he elevates an experience for me that otherwise could be mundane. And that's my challenge for you today. Is there a situation in your life that you could elevate the experience that somebody else walks away from that experience, whether it be in person, online, whatever it is, maybe even in the comments below you could do that. Anyway, elevate somebody else's experience. Challenge yourself to see if you can do it. I'm not going to tell you how. You know yourself better than I do. But I'm telling you, when somebody gives you an experience that elevates what normally would be ordinary, you don't forget them. They become unforgettable. And the more you can become unforgettable in a positive kind of a way, the better off I believe you will be. I've had a blast with this top 10 video today. I want to thank you guys again for all the cool subscriptions you've given the channel. We're growing like crazy. And of course, as we send you out of here every time, here's your fortune.